Okay, I'm going to show you how to update an IMCANS. So we're starting from an assessment. We can see it's already done. It's signed by the LPHA. It's marked as LPHA reviewed, and so it's ready to be updated. So the first thing you're going to do is go to Review IMCANS. And it's going to ask you if you'd like to review and update this IMCANS. I'm going to say yes. It's going to create basically a copy of what we just had. So it's going to copy all of the sections for you. Important to note that the purpose of an updated IMCANS is to review progress, discuss treatment moving forward, anything we want to change or add to treatment, see how clients are doing, checking in about therapy. So when you go into an IMCANS update, it's important to remember that this serves as a tool to use throughout your therapeutic process. It's a good time to discuss if treatment is working, and if treatment is not working, what needs to be changed in order for treatment to be more helpful and useful to the client to help them meet their goals. It's also a good time to note maybe if client is ready for termination. So if we start to see that we're changing our scores to lower and clients not having as many issues, we can start to discuss termination using this tool as well. So I'm going to move into section 2. This should not change too much during an update. So this is where we have the guardian status, the caregiver information, and emergency contact. Family members, we want to make sure we get the parents and the age. You want to make sure you have both parents if both parents are involved. Oftentimes only one parent brings the client to session, but if both clients have custody, guardianship of the client, we do want to make sure both parents are listed. Down here, if there's any physician, school, anything here, and we want to make sure that for anyone we might speak to, we're getting a release. So if we have a school, daycare, we also want to make sure that we're obtaining a release of information to speak to them. Moving on to section 3 through 18. For the trauma section, for an update, you really don't have to go through this again. If you've been working with the client for 6 months, you should know if there was any new trauma. If you are new to the client and you're taking the client as a transfer, still read that section, review it yourself, but I don't think it's helpful to review trauma with the client's trauma with them every 6 months. Typically those areas stay the same. Moving into symptoms, so I want to remind everybody, or if you're new here, if you click on the word depression, you will get the page from the IMCANS manual discussing depression, what it is, what 0, 1, 2, 3 scoring means, questions to consider are all listed on this page. So what I want to do is I'm going to go into the supporting information, and I'm going to discuss with the client. This is what we talked about last time. So last time you scored depression as a 2 and you said these things, and I'm going to review it back with them. How are you doing with that now? How is that going now? And so what I would want to do is go down and I'm going to add the date. And then I'm going to talk about what we talked about today. So client reported continuing to So I want to document what is he doing better? And what is continuing to struggle? So this client maybe is continuing to struggle with symptoms of depression, but they've had some improvement in ruminating about the negative experience which they mentioned last time. We could document if they have any increase in energy or if they're continuing to struggle with energy issues. So kind of just going through that and talking about what we talk about now. This should be a collaborative effort. So this is not just me asking the client what they think. If I have been working with this client, and it might be if it's your first time meeting the client, or again, if it's a transfer client, but if I've been working with this client for 6 months, a year, several years, I should know this information too. So if client's struggling to say, I don't really know areas where I've made progress, well, that might tell me what I've noticed, right? Here's what I have seen over the last 6 months and what I see is improved, or what you're still struggling with. So it should be a collaborative effort where together you guys are talking about how has therapy been going. This is not just, client, how are you doing? I still feel sad, right? We want to make sure we're having a good conversation and we're clearly documenting what the client is experiencing. And this is important for a couple of things. Again, we're documenting progress and seeing how therapy is going. Two, this is our bill for our receipt for Medicaid, right? So they want to know, why is the client coming to treatment? Why are we still paying for treatment? So we want to make sure we're clearly documenting that. Also, if your client gets transferred to somebody else, or you're doing the assessment and someone else is going to be seeing the client, you want to make sure that they know most of what you know and that they can pick up this chart, read the assessment, and understand where the client is at now. So those are some things to think about while you're doing this. So we want to go through and do this for each section. So for anxiety, right? Last time you reported this. How are you feeling now? And then document that progress. Same for adjustment to trauma. Same for substance abuse. I'm going to go in each section and document how is the client doing now. Sleep, intimate relationships. So all of these areas we should write under each section with update the date and how is the client doing now. If you're doing an update and there's more than just the last 6 months of information, you can delete that. We have copies of those IMCANs. They are saved in CIS as well as in our old system. And so you don't have to save 2013 information, 2003 information, 2004 information. Just you might want to have the last 6 months and then currently how the client is doing now. So that is how this section will be treated during an update. For this section, is anything different? So any risk behaviors. Up here, you could go through this too. I don't think you have to ask every question again, but again, if you've been working with the client and you know a little bit of something, maybe with the last time the assessment does, there was no residential stability issues and now there is, right? So, hey, we've been talking about your living situation and how that's not been so great lately. Let's maybe change some of these scores to reflect that. And so going back through and just talking about it. So if last time you said this was a 0, how do you feel like this is doing? This is now. And again, you can point to the things that you know have been going on since you have been working with the client. After those sections, again, for safety risk behaviors, we want to make sure we do the same thing. After this section, we're going to go here and we're going to answer the question. So what's the reason for what's the current situation and the reason client is seeking treatment? What is the client's desired outcome for services? And how I like to ask this question is, how do you know you'll be done with therapy? What are you looking to achieve to feel like you'll be done and you can terminate sessions? Because again, we want clients to always be thinking about, what is my goal so I can end therapy? We don't want clients to come here and think, oh, I'm going to be here for 17 years. We want to make sure that we're in that process of meeting our goals and being able to move forward without needing therapy. Re-answering the questions down here. So make sure you go through and make sure those are still correct. If you are new to IMCANs and are only watching this training video, I want to point out that if you score something as a 2 or 3, it will then add it here and then you can add in that information. I will make a second video on how to do a brand new assessment though as well. Okay. Placement history, if they've not had any out-of-home placements, you're just going to say no, and then click client has, and then it will say client has not had any out-of-home places. If they have had out-of-home placements, which basically means being away from their parents when they were younger, so if they lived anywhere other than with their biological parents, you can click yes, and then just document that in here. So if I say yes, I want to say so just document where the client lived and what the situation was. For psychiatric information, for an update, you probably don't have to re-update all of these things, but just go through it and make sure the information is still accurate. For mental status exam, you should be updating this if client's demeanor has changed. Also, if the original assessment was for a child and it says here the client was not present to assessment, you should be changing that in an update. So if the client didn't come to the original assessment, but you've now been working with the client for 6 months, you should be able to complete a mental status exam about that client. And those are things we're looking for. So as the LPHAs are reviewing your assessments, we're looking to see, did you update this mental status section, or does it still say client wasn't present? Here, I'm looking to make sure you don't just say no change, no change, no change, no change, because I have a clinical question for you. If client has been attending services for 6 months or more and they've never made any changes, right? Then I have questions about what are we doing in therapy, and what is useful and what is not useful. Client strengths. So this section you should not need to update unless something has changed. This section, this is relevant family history, so this should not change, but you can scroll through it and just make sure nothing is different. If there's any cultural considerations that have changed, you want to update that here. Mental status summary. So these sections you do want to make sure we're updating. So if I say the last time I did this, the client was 49 and now they're 51, right? I want to make sure I'm updating that section. So that's the client summary. So what is client experiencing now? What are the current symptoms? What are we still working on? So just a summary of what the client's experience has been. Down here, we're going to put in the diagnosis. Again, we want to make sure we're putting the diagnosis and then the criteria met. We do want to make sure the criteria here meets the criteria here. So if you document post-traumatic stress disorder and I have no record of any kind of adjustment to anything, I see no trauma history, and all these symptoms are listed here and nothing is listed here, I'm going to ask you about it, right? Or your LPHA is going to ask you about that. So making sure that anything in here is also listed throughout the body of the IMCANS. This should not be a section where we see brand new information. Scrolling down, any treatment recommendations are different. Document that here. And then again, if you're not the LPHA, you do not fill out this section. This section is for additional client functioning evaluations recommended by the LPHA. So if you're not the LPHA, you do not need to fill out that section. Moving on to the strength section. So if I changed anything, so if something was a 2 and now it's a 1, or something was a 1 and now it's a 2, I want to come in here and I want to hit update all actionable items, and this will update that for me. After that section, we're going to go to our needs and goals section, and we're going to go to our treatment plan. So this is going to pull up our last treatment plan. I'm going to go through this with the client and see if this is still accurate, if there's anything we want to change, is there something we want to add. So maybe symptoms are not improving and we want to switch, or we want to add in medication services. That's something we can do in this section. So from here, what I want to do is do a treatment plan review update. So this button here. I'm going to say, oh wait, I have to continue all first. So I'm going to continue all here, and then I'm going to put the treatment plan review button. I'm going to say yes. This will then transfer over and it'll start a new treatment plan for me, and I'll see that up here, this ID for the new IMCANS matches this ID for the IMCANS, or for the update down here. So I can see those dates match, so they go together. If I want to delete something, I can go here and I can click void this row, and that will delete something for me. If I want to add something, I'm going to click on this. I'm going to do add a objective. And so if I want to add psych services, I know there's usually one in here that is psych services specific. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to say OK. It's going to add this here. And then when I add psych service, I want to make sure I'm adding medication monitoring, medication training, and psychiatric evaluation. Then I'm going to go here and click in these boxes, and I'm going to say 60 minutes annually. I'm going to pick I'm going to pick that. After I update all of that, I'm going to exit out of here. I'm going to go back to identification and registration page, and then I'm going to add my LPHA. Because I'm already an LPHA, you see that my name is in here, but typically your name will be listed as Assessor 1, and then you're going to add your LPHA here. And then make sure you save it. And then the LPHA will have this, this will go to their to-do list. A couple of things to note. If you do not add the LPHA, we will not receive the notification. We also will not receive the notification if your dates are wrong. So if these dates were expired, I would not receive this message. So I want to make sure that I'm going up here and I'm changing the date to the date I completed the assessment. That's how I ensure that if those two steps are done, my LPHA will get the notification. You'd also want to make sure you're always adding the LPHA from this identification registration, this top one. If you add them on a different tab, it will not save. So making sure you're clicking there and then adding your LPHA here. And to add your LPHA, we're going to go in here, we're going to F2, and then we're going to choose who our LPHA is, and then we're going to save it. You also want to make sure you sign it. If you do not sign the assessment, you will not, it will not go to the LPHA. So I'm going to put myself here as the assessor just to show you. So I'm going to click sign. It's going to say, do I want to use today date? I'm going to say yes. That gave me an error that I did something wrong. Okay. And then it let me sign and it put the date in. So again, we want to make sure I signed it. I want to make sure my LPHA is here, and I want to make sure my dates are correct. If my LPHA does not get it, those are usually the three things that might be wrong. Your LPHA should be signing relatively frequently, and so if more than a few days go by and they haven't signed it, check in with them and make sure they've received it. And it is your responsibility to make sure the LPHA has signed it before you move on and start doing therapy. If you start doing therapy on an assessment that was not signed the LPHA, it is your responsibility. So making sure that you are making sure this is signed before you see the client. Thank you.